My Govanen, welcome to the Tolkien Lore Channel. I'm the Tolkien Geek, and in today's Thursday Tolkien Thoughts, did Aragorn and Boromir kill Gandalf? I know that's a really strange question to ask, but if you read the narrative, Gandalf and the Balrog are having this really interesting confrontation where Gandalf says a lot of stuff, the Balrog says nothing, and they exchange a couple of, attacks and parries, and not a whole lot happens. And it's only after Aragorn and Boromir, whom Gandalf has already told, go, stay off the bridge, this is my fight, try to run up from behind and join the battle, which seems like a really interesting thing to do on a narrow stone bridge over an abyss that has no bottom. It's only after they run out to assist Gandalf in the fight that Gandalf snaps his own staff on the stone bridge and breaks it. Which leads to the interesting question. Did Gandalf only resort to this because he realized Aragorn and Boromir were probably going to get themselves killed or, make things worse in some way, and therefore he just decided to cut the whole thing short? Or did he realize that, this was the only way, regardless of what Aragorn and Boromir were doing, and therefore he just had to, find some way to take out the Balrog, because taking out the bridge is a risky maneuver. Gandalf doesn't have to fall over the edge, of course. When the whole thing happens, he breaks it, and the part that's under the Balrog is what falls. Gandalf is fine until the Balrog, whips his legs and pulls him down. But it's a risky thing, because if you break off half the bridge, is the other half of the bridge going to stay up? Open question. I mean, it's made of stone, so theoretically, as dwarven masonry, it should. But was there any other way of beating the Balrog that was maybe less risky? This is just a random stray thought that crossed my mind, that perhaps if we had a different outcome, we could have had a different outcome to this whole thing if Aragorn and Boromir had listened and not really tried to interfere in what Gandalf told them not to interfere in. Do I actually think that this is really them causing Gandalf's death? Oh, not really. As I said, Gandalf didn't have to fall. In any kind of scenario in which he fights the Balrog is one in which the Balrog potentially falls and therefore potentially pulls Gandalf down with him. So there's always that risk. But it is interesting to think, did Aragorn and Boromir's decision to jump out lead to Gandalf's decision to break the bridge in two? Because the two things happen almost simultaneously, and it's kind of weird that happens. And just to be clear on the chronology, here's how it goes. With a bound, the Balrog leapt full on the bridge. Then Aragorn says he cannot stand alone, and ran back along the bridge. Gondor, cried Boromir, and leapt after him. At that moment, Gandalf lifted his staff, and crying aloud, he smote the bridge before him. So Balrog gets onto the bridge for the first time. He's kind of been at the back of the bridge for the most part. Then Aragorn says, okay, I'm getting in, and Boromir says, yeah, me too, don't leave me behind. And then, right when Boromir does that, Gandalf smashes down the bridge, which means he's had some time to think, after Aragorn says his piece. I skipped over a lot of the dialogue, there's a few more words there. So Boromir follows Aragorn at enough of a delay, potentially, that Gandalf could have made that decision in that split second in between, right? So he doesn't do it immediately when the Balrog jumps onto the bridge, so that doesn't necessarily seem to have been his first impulse. And it might have only been as a result of the other two coming up behind him that he did it. Interesting thing to think about. So, there's your Thursday Tolkien thought for the day. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks to all the channel supporters, especially Elf Friends PA Brew News, Tracy Meehan, Nathan DeFore, Paul Leone, and Oleg Gregg.